that I feel more than a passing familiarity with, thanks to the descriptive powers of a talented writer and a touch of my own imagination. At the time of writing this, I am rereading Muriel Spark's The Mandelbaum Gate, which takes the reader deep into 1960s Israel and Jordan, places that I've never set foot in, but which are so richly illustrated on the page that I feel as if I've been there. So it is that fascination with where stories happen that so excites me about this wonderful book. A book that makes place, location and setting the central characters in a compelling story about the author's country of birth, her life travels through it, and the way in which its beauty, culture and architecture have helped inspire and shape her more than 30 best-selling novels. Val McDermid is without doubt one of the best novelists of modern times. In my opinion, she is our nation's greatest living crime writer, and given Scotland's wealth of riches in this regard, that is a big statement. Her novels have it all for fans of the genre: murder mystery, psychological drama, police procedure, cutting-edge forensic science. Her plots are pacey and intricately crafted, and her characters complex, interesting, fully three-dimensional. But she is also a master when it comes to describing and bringing to life the places that her stories unfold in. In Broken Ground, the remote Wester Ross setting is front and centre at the beginning, and stays there throughout, almost becoming one of the key characters. Of course, the fact that this book ends in the drawing room of Bute House, the First Minister's official residence, gives it an added thrill for this reader, but more importantly, it gives others a peek into a building that sits at the heart of our nation's democratic story. But the brilliance of Val's storytelling and character creation, how good she is at the what, why, how and who of fiction, can mean that the where is not always what immediately grabs our attention. What is so great about this book is that it enables Val to put a spotlight on the lurking, silent characters in her stories, the places in which they happen. And when we have the chance to really focus on these places, we realise just how vivid and essential to her books they are. On the day I am writing this, by sheer coincidence, the Weems Ancient Cave Society has an exhibition in the Scottish Parliament. When I stopped for a chat with the woman from the society, she asked me if I knew much about the caves. As I said that, yes, I knew a bit, it quickly occurred to me that much of what I know actually came from reading A Darker Domain, one of my favourites of Val's novels, which draws on the miners' strike of the 1980s. Another of my favourites is The Skeleton Road, which features the magnificent Victorian Gothic building until recently home to Donaldson School for the Deaf. On occasional childhood trips to Edinburgh, passing that building was a source of fascination to me. I would wonder about all the dark and exciting adventures that might have taken place within its walls. I wondered, but the brilliant imagination of Val McDermid brought it to life and placed it at the centre of a gripping international crime story. That this book also takes us to a village in Croatia dealing with the legacy of the Balkan Wars tells its own story about Val's range and relevance. The places in many of Val's books make great settings for her plots, but they are more than that. Karen Pirie, the character of Val's that I love best, to the extent that I really wish she was real, takes nocturnal walks around Edinburgh as a way of coping with her grief-induced insomnia. Through these walks, Val doesn't just bring to life the parts of our capital city that the tourists don't always visit. She also allows the city to shape the life and emotions of her central character. My Scotland brings all of this to the fore. It is a real joy to read and a joy to look at. It makes you think about Val's books afresh, notice things that perhaps you didn't first time around, and marvel at the sheer brilliance and complexity of her writing. And it takes us on a wonderful tour of Scotland, showcasing along the way the towns and cities, landscapes, architecture and curiosities that make us who we are. Val's mastery of language and Alan Macready's stunning photography have combined to create a work of true beauty. Chapter 1. The Kingdom of Fife. My parents never lived outside an 8-mile radius of where they were born, apart from a couple of years of wartime service. Lucky for me, then, that their stamping ground had so much to commend it. Thanks to them, I grew up between woods and beaches, hills and sea. But this wasn't simply some rural idyll. Kirkcaldy and East Weems, where I lived for the first 17 years of my life, were also industrial landscapes. Dark red colliery winding gear and soot-blackened factories were never far from the horizon, and their presence shaped my image of the world as much as nature.